You're watching I Like Autos Daily, and today I'm going to show you how to get rid of rust spots on your car quick and easy. Let's go over some of the things you need to get started. We've got wax and grease remover, high build primer and filler, rust converter, got some Scotch-Brite for scuffing things up before we paint. I've also got some sandpaper. We've got 600, we've got 2000 for finishing. You're also going to need a couple of lower grits for removing the rust. And then I've also got my color match paint and my clear coat. And that's basically all you're going to need. There's probably a couple of things that I'm missing, but that's the basics. So obviously the first step is going to be remove the rust. So I'm just going to take some, I've got 220 grit here. I'm just going to take it, because this spot is so small, I'm going to do this by hand. But if you had a larger spot that you were working with, you could use like a foam sander or DA. But this is what I've got, so hand sanding. If you are hand sanding, it's recommended to use a block so that you can keep things nice and flat. But I'm just going to do it with my hands. And now when you are sanding, you want to try and keep your area as small as possible, just so that your repair doesn't end up being super big. So I'm going to get the rust down to bare metal. You want to get all of it out of there, otherwise it's just going to come back on you. And in the process, I'm going to try and feather it out just a little bit, and like I said, try and keep it small. The atmosphere charting the stratosphere, I prayed for you. Alright, so now you can see I'm down to bare metal. I've removed all the rust. You can see the spot is considerably larger now. It's about the size of my thumb. I tried, while I was sanding, I tried to stay away from this body line, because if you try and fill that body line, it's going to be really hard to reshape that and make it look good. So I tried my best to stay away from there. There's a little bit of, you can see a little bit of specks of rust down here still right at the edge of the paint. But I'm not too worried about that. The rust converter will probably take care of that. Now you can see also, you can see all three layers of, like, you've got metal, primer, paint, and clear. When you can see all three layers like that, that's a pretty good indicator that you've got a good feather going. Now the next step will be I'll clean this with some wax and grease remover, and then I'm going to put some rust converter on there and let that set in. Now I don't have a brush here, so I'm just going to put a little bit of this rust converter on a rag and then wipe it onto the area. I'm going to apply it kind of generously, and then any rust that's left there, you'll see this stuff will change color, and then you know that it's working. It's converted that rust, and it shouldn't spread any longer. So I'll do a couple of coats of that. I just put that on there, I'll let it dry. I'll do another one, and then clean off the excess. Alright, so the rust converter is sat overnight. It's had time to cure. So now it's time to apply the bondo. You can see the panel has changed color quite a bit. It's very red now, so I know it's working. So I'm gonna set you guys up on a tripod, and then I will mix some bondo, and we'll get to it. So now I'm gonna let that cure for about 30 minutes-ish, or until it gets hard, whatever. And then we'll get ready to apply the primer. Alright, this has had plenty of time to cure, so I'm just going to go in with a soft block and some 400 grit, and just try and smooth this out as nice as I can, and try and stay off of the surrounding paint. Also trying to stay away from high points again, like this body line, because it does not take much to go through one of these high points, because the paint is thinner there. So you'll know you're starting to get the bondo nice and flat once you see this. There's a small edge of still shiny clear coat there that you can see around the bondo. So once that starts to disappear, you'll know that you're starting to get nice and flat. Like, see here, there's no edge around the bondo, whereas here there is, and I can feel a slight bump there, but here it's nice and flat. Alright, so I've got all the low spots out now. Now I'm going to be priming this. And when I'm spraying the primer, I'm just going to try and focus on the area of the bondo. I'm not going to try and get anywhere else, because we don't need it. And I'm also not going to be taping anything off. I'm going to spray downwards so that I don't get my door. And that's just so that we don't create a hard tape line anywhere that we're going to have to sand out later. So probably do 3 or 4 coats, very light coats, allow 5 to 10 minutes between, and we'll go from there. The primer's had about 30 minutes to cure, so now I'm going to take some 600 grit and wet sand the area just to remove some of the excess primer around the bondo. It's important that when you're wet sanding, keep the panel wet, don't let your paper dry out, and make sure if you feel anything scratching on the surface, that's something between your paper and your body. Just give your paper a little rinse and continue. Alright, I'm pretty happy with how flat that is, so now I'm going to take my gray Scotch-Brite and I'm going to just scuff up a larger area around here so that we can, when we go to paint, that we can start in the middle with our first layer and then gradually get larger and larger and thin out the paint so that we have a color fade that hopefully in the end you won't be able to see. Because no matter how good the dude at the paint shop mixes your paint, it's never going to be an exact match. You're still going to see a little bit of a color difference. And actually, if I show you this door here, you can probably see that in the video. I don't know, maybe. The driver's door is just slightly brighter in color than the back passenger door. And that's just because when I repainted that door, I didn't do the fade out like you're supposed to across the side of the car. I just didn't feel like going through that much effort. That door used to be black. The driver's door is actually from a different vehicle because my other one was so rusted out that I just figured it'd be easier to repaint a new one. Anyways, back on topic. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scuff up an area with this gray Scotch-Brite larger than my repair. Probably, I don't know, say 4 inches around beyond the repair. And that's just so that we get a nice fade out. And in doing this, I'm not trying to remove the original clear coat. I'm just scuffing it up very lightly just so that our paint has something to grab into. Alright, I've got the area masked off here. I've prepped the surface with some wax and grease remover just to make sure it's clean. And I've taken a tack rag over it just to make sure there's no dust or anything on there. And mixed my paint up. So now we're going to spray some color onto this. Now when we're spraying the color, I'm going to do probably 4 coats. And I'm just, for the first coat, I'm just going to focus on this area here, just where we've got no paint at the moment. And then for each following coat, I'm going to go a step larger and just a little bit lighter around the edges, just to try and feather that color out into like a nice transition. So first coat here, second coat about here, third coat here, and then fourth coat just about to the edge of where we've scuffed up the clear coat with the Scotch-Brite. So I'm going to start painting, and I'm going to do about probably 10 minutes between coats. See how this goes. Here's coat number 2. Sorry guys, my camera died on me last night while I was spraying. But that last clip that you saw was just me spraying on the clear coat. I did 2 medium coats and I waited about 12 12 to 15 minutes in between coats. And this is what it looks like. This is a good 12 hours later. So the next step that we're going to do is I'm going to take some 2000 grit sandpaper and wet sand the area and probably a large area around. And then we can go in for the polish and we'll be done.
I'm on my own, broken alone. I feel the rain crashing down.
And this is how it looks after it's been polished. So, it's definitely not show car quality, but it was quick, easy, cheap, and yeah, it's cool to say you did it yourself. So, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the bottom. Check out my Instagram, subscribe, leave a like, it really helps. And we'll see you next time.